it can create a nightmare if you're a field goal kicker, but Chicago wouldn't have it any other way. The wind chill right now, minus 13 degrees. The wind out of the west at 20 miles an hour. The forecast, cold and clear. In other words, it's a beautiful day for a football game in Chicago. And when the gates opened this morning, Bear fans were ready for not only the game, but also the elements that they would face inside Soldier Field.
I'm an ice fisherman. This doesn't bother me at all.
I have every intention of staying until the very end.
Now, the Bears prepared for their frigid conditions based on experiences from a game against Green Bay back in December of 1983. The thermometer read 0 that day with a wind chill factor of 36 below.
We had about 100 people come into our first aid stations, but out of those 100, only one was a clear-cut case of frostbite. But it showed the people were aware and listening and taking.
As a reminder, the stadium scoreboard and PA system will continue to warn fans about the dangers of exposure to the cold. In addition, TV monitors have been installed underneath the stands so fans can take shelter from the freezing winds that come in off the lake.
As long as the Bears win, I've waited 22 years for this, so I'll be here until they win, and they will win today.
So that's how the fans are going to face up to the cold, but how about the players like the Chicago Bears, who right behind me are headed inside their locker room? Well, to get an insight into their conditions, let's go to Irv Cross. Irv?
Brent, I have the best seat in the house. I'm sitting on the Bears bench right now, and it's called the hot seat. Now, you take a look at these slots under the seat here. The players can put their feet in here where it's about 200 degrees. They'll be sitting on a surface that's about 110 degrees, and the backrest is about 150 degrees. Now, league rules demand that both have exactly the same kind of equipment on the sideline, so the Giants will have these same benches on their sideline. So the players will be nice and warm as long as they're sitting on the hot seat. As far as the field itself is concerned, it too is in great shape. It was covered by a tarpaulin since Thursday, where they had heaters blowing under the tarpaulins to keep the field dry and soft. It's dry and soft now. It'll be maintained that way throughout the entire day. So the running game for both of these clubs will be quite effective. The only problem I can feel and sense down here now is a swirling wind in the stadium, so it'll be pretty tough to throw the football. But other than that, it's a great day for football, and it's Bear weather. Brent?
All right, Irvin, it'll be tough for Schubert and Butler to kick it, too, in conditions like that. Now, the focal point is always on the two quarterbacks, Phil Simms and Jim McMahon. And to get more on them, let's go upstairs now to Pat Summerall and John Madden. Pat?
Thank you, Brent. You know, last night when John and I went to the hotel where the Giants were staying, we were supposed to talk to quarterback Phil Simms, but the word was the bad with the flu. I know that John was down the field a little bit earlier talking to him, so bring us up to date, if you will, on this condition.
Well, he said he got sick on Friday night, had the flu Friday night, didn't feel well yesterday, although he did practice in New York. He said when the team got to Chicago, he just went to bed, and then he said he woke up and felt a lot better today. He said the biggest thing, he was down in the field, and we were talking. He said the biggest thing that helped was that 12-degree weather. He said that cleaned out anything that was in there.
That'll work on you in a little while. Both the quarterbacks will be wearing gloves. You possibly saw Phil Simms and the gloves that he'll be wearing. Bear quarterback Jim McMahon will be wearing them as well. What effect do you think that's going to have on their passing?
Well, it has to affect their passing because it's not the same type of thing. Now, what happened is Mike Ditka told his players, if you're going to wear anything different, you have to practice in it all week. So what happened is Jim McMahon practiced with gloves all week, and he said he threw more spirals with the glove than he ever did without the glove. Now, Phil Simms really didn't get a chance to practice with the gloves. In fact, that's why he was out there early, about 9 o'clock this morning, trying out the gloves to see how he would pass.
They look very much like golf gloves. They're a little bit heavier, but they're very soft, and it should furnish some warmth. Speaking of warmth, about the cold, before the game, John Madden was down on the field talking with Harry Carson, who doesn't seem to be bothering him, but you look like you were well equipped.
Who is that masked man? I was getting the word there. Harry Carson was telling me it's all just a state of mind. He said the only one that's going to be cold at this place are the fans. He says we aren't.
John's ready. Let's go back to Brent.
All right, Pat, thank you very much. Now, the gloves, Phil Simms said he was not too comfortable with the one that he was throwing with. This is a glove that will be worn by the receivers and the running back, so everybody seems very well equipped. They were not so well equipped 22 years ago up in Wrigley Field. The last time it was the Bears and the Giants, and no one remembers that game than the athletes who survived it.
I'll
tell you this. The most physical game ever played in a World Championship game, Super Bowl or any of them, was a matchup between the 63 Bears and the 63 Giants.
Kittle back to throw. He tosses in the end zone. Touchdown to Gifford.
I think he ran a zig-out pattern. He could run a good zig-out pattern. And he was open, I think, in the end zone for a touchdown. Anyway, that's the only good memory I have of the whole game.
Del Schaffner miscatching a Tittle pass, and that would be the key play.
I don't think one play actually wins a ball game, but I'm not so sure one play didn't lose this one, but there's nothing I can do about that now.
Y.A. looks. Here's a screen toss. Intercepted by Larry Morris.
First 30 yards, I was scared somebody was going to catch me. The last 30, I was scared they wouldn't. But somebody put a pin on my back, and I made it to about the 2-yard line, and then Bill Wade sneaked it in.
I was fortunate enough to score both touchdowns, but only after good work, I have to admit that. You know, the defense always tried to belittle the offense, but that year we had fewer turnovers than any other team in the league.
I remember hurting my knee, obviously, and I remember throwing 5 interceptions, and I was hoping somebody would burn those films.
The rush is on. The pass is intercepted by O'Branovich.
Well, I didn't run out of gas. There was Larry Morris that ran out of gas. I got caught from behind. As a matter of fact, by Jack Stroud, who I believe at the time was the slowest man in the league, and he caught me from behind, so guess what?
Kittle back to throw. This could be the last play of the game. Long pass. Petitbone. Petitbone caught it in the end zone. It is intercepted by the Bears.
Well, Jimmy, that's how I remembered it when I covered it for the old Chicago American. But refresh my memory. How many points you favored the Giants by that day?
No, the Bears were favored by 3, and I lost.
We will continue live from Soldier Field in Chicago in just a moment. All right, Dan Dierdorf for CBS Sports. Sorry you couldn't be with me in Southern California yesterday.
The amazing thing is, Brent, I wanted to be here. From a player's standpoint, a perfect day. Bring the aspirin and an extra chin strap. You'll need them both before it's over.
Yeah, look who's with us, too. The great Hall of Fame middle linebacker for the Chicago Bears, who now works on their radio coverage. Dick Butkus, great day for a football game.
It's a great day, Brent, as long as you're either playing or at your home watching this, or up in a warm booth, I'll tell you.
Dan, you spent part of last week at the Meadowlands talking to the New York Giants.
Yeah, I sure did, Brent. And if you remember last week, the Giants beat the 49ers. But a year ago, it was the San Francisco 49ers that ousted the Giants. Sims was on his back all day long. Joe Morris only had 47 yards on the day. What a difference a year makes. And if there's a difference between the 84 and 85 Giants, it's clearly their offensive line.
To the Giants' offensive line, the challenge of facing a great defense such as the Bears is new.
The same was the situation last week when we met San Francisco, and they were giving up less than 100 yards a game. And the better team won that game. So we're going to go out there, give it our best shot.
Bart Oates has been the difference in the Giants line this year. A USFL refugee, Oates has brought the maturity of a veteran to go with his talent at center.
That's a tough job because you got to do, center is the only position on the line where you got to do two things. I mean, the guards and tackles, we just got to block. He has to snap the ball and then block.
Last week, the Giants' offensive line gave Phil Simms plenty of time to set up and see his receivers. He'll need that time and more this week.
Got to have a shutout today. Let's shut them out. And that's what you shoot for every week. You shoot for no sacks. And once in a while they're going to happen, and when they do, you can't let them get you down. You have to just shrug it off and come back.
The Giants line has also helped make Joe Morris one of the premier runners in the league. But who says backs don't give their linemen the time of day? This week, Morris surprised his linemen with a gift.
Give us a nice watch today. We haven't had it appraised yet, but it looks like
Brent, talk about a group looking for some notoriety. It's been 17 years since the Giants sent an offensive lineman to a Pro Bowl. A guess?
Who was the last one to make it?
Greg Larson, clear back in 1968. It's been that long.
Dick, now what about this Bear defense that the Giants are going up against?
Well, I think it's important that Richard Dent has a good game, Mike Singletary, and Gary Fencik, of all people, because he led the Bears in tackles. Now, Dent likes to rush from the outside, which means that Joe Morris might have an inside track or running off tackle, and it's imperative that Mike Singletary makes the tackles inside tackle to tackle. Now, it's interesting that Fencik also led the team in tackles from his safety position, and because of the 46 lineup that the Bears use, he's involved in a lot of tackles. Now, if Morris breaks through the line and Singletary doesn't make the tackle, Fencik better be there to make the tackle.
Dick, to stop the 46 this year?
Not really. They might say that the Dolphins picked it apart a little bit, but after checking the films, Buddy Ryan thought there was a lot of mistakes made by the Bears. So the Bears really beat themselves Monday night. No one has come close to beating the Bear defense.
Who are you picking this afternoon?
Oh, definitely the Bears, without a doubt.
Oh, I'm surprised.
That might be a little biased, but I think they're going to do it.
All right. Listen, thank you. I know you got to get upstairs to the radio broadcast on WGN. Have a good day.
Good. Appreciate it.
We're going to continue live from Soldier Field in just a moment. Soldier Field starting to fill up. We're closing in on the Giants and the Bears. You know, the Bear players have been extremely confident about this game. In fact, some of the Giants have accused them of being arrogant. But what about Bear fans? Well, to get that side of the story, here's Irv. Irv?
Brent, Bear fans are cocky and confident too, and Larry Laris to our left here has been a Bear season ticket holder for 31 years. Of course, you've seen a lot of great football here, I guess.
Oh, yes, I have, Irv. Tremendous amount of football.
It's been an exciting year for him. You know, and all season long, Bear fans have been caught up in the excitement of Bear Mania, especially when winning the NFC Central Division looked more and more like a sure thing. But now that everything's on the line again, well, Chicagoans are starting to feel just a bit uneasy. They've been on that road before.
Welcome to Chicago, ladies and gentlemen, home of America's best football team, the Chicago Bears.
This is Chicago. And no, this is not the season to just be merry. For these are the playoffs, and they don't call Chicago the second city for nothing.
I think this kind of gathering sense of inferiority, as it's expressed through being a sports fan, takes the form right now in Chicago of, oh my God, what will happen if the team doesn't even get to the Super Bowl?
What it would be like, it would be a tragedy to this town. It would be exactly like when the Cubs lost. It's a heartbreaker. You can't live with it.
The missiles in Cuba, I think that was a caution that I might feel. But the death of Kennedy.
1963, Chicago's last true championship. Since then, a litany of failure and frustration. The 69 and 84 Cubs, the Blackhawks in 71 and 73, the White Sox in 83, DePaul and Ray Meyer, pick a year. And please don't pick on Ernie Banks anymore.
And it is a tough blow to take when you get so close to something and not make it. And I know all the fans around Chicago and the state of Illinois are really looking forward to seeing the Bears in the Super Bowl and win that Super Bowl, so that we can have something to cheer about.
Everyone around here was a little more cheerful a month ago. They weren't just lining up to meet their fridge. Their aim was to book Super Bowl passage to New Orleans.
It was frantic. Phones were ringing off the wall, but it has quieted down. It quieted down after Miami.
Miami, Dan Marino, the Bears' Waterloo. Maybe the gods could say,
we're not here to cause any trouble. We're just here to do the Super Bowl shovel.
I thought it was pretentious, putting the cart before the horse, and the other guys, it's their prerogative. I just didn't want to, be involved with it. And, it's I guess everyone thinks it's great, but, we just better win. That's all.
Chicago, city of big shoulders, city of big cynics.
I think they're going to botch it. They're overconfident this year.
If they lose, then we'll all blame it on the shuffle and all the hype.
For now, Bear fans are still wearing their hearts on their sleeve, and just about everywhere else.
80-20. Need a hat to go with that? $14.95.
Yeah, I need a hat. Since November 15th, I have sold 3,400 hats. Hottest selling hat in America.
Well, who knows? Maybe this really will be Chicago's year.
Well, that Bears-Raiders score is only wishful thinking with Chicago fans, but everybody up here believes the Bears are going to be in the Super Bowl. Here's Gary from New Jersey, who's obviously a Giant fan. Aren't you a little bit uneasy about being in the stand here?
No, not scared at all. I got a few fans here with me.
All right, Gary. All right, Brett.
All right. Well, one man who doesn't believe that the Bears are going to win is number 11 of the New York Giants, quarterback Phil Simms. Jimmy the Greek, yesterday, you liked the Rams. They came through out there in Anaheim. How about the Bears and the Giants today?
I'll tell you one thing, Brent. This is the top two defenses in the league. They're 1-2. Physically, they match up great. They're tough, they're rough, and I'll tell you, they're going to be after each other. The Bears will be concerned about tackling Morris and be sure to bring him down. The Giants, on the other hand, are going to be concerned about their offensive line. But let's not forget that the Bears are at home. They're on Astro, and they do very well here, and the kicking game is better. I have to go along with the Bears by just a little bit, though.
All right, we'll continue live from Soldier Field in Chicago in just a moment. So the captains go out to the middle of the field. They'll flip the coin. Dan Deerdorf, do you agree with the Greek? Will this be the Bears?
I have to go. Joe Morris would have to go over 100 against the 46ers. I don't think he can do it. I go Bears 2013.
All right, and how about you, Irv Cross? Do you agree with Dan and Joe?
Well, I like the Giants' chances for an upset, but you have to go with Chicago, Brent. You've had a lot of time off. I'm going with Chicago 13-10.
I'll tell you what, I'll go with the Giants in the upset.
No! 23 years he's been waiting for this. Don't you dare. That's all. That's all. I quit.
Well, you're going to hear Soldier Field explode as Jimmy, the Bears are being introduced right now. These fans have waited so long and very patiently for this moment, and now their team is only a couple of wins away from going to its first Super Bowl.
And so have you been waiting for it. I'm sorry.
Or Jackson State.
So the scene is set in Chicago. It's the Bears and the Giants. Sit back and enjoy, everybody. It should be a great game. Pat Summerall and John Madden are coming up next.
Ball memory is sometimes for a collision in Chicago.
Today, the NFC divisional playoff game. The New York Giants against the Chicago Bears.
We're live at the home of the Bears, Soldier Field, by the lakeside in Chicago, where it is frigid. I mean, really cold today. The temperature 12 degrees. The wind chill makes it feel like it's minus 13. And the wind itself is 13 miles an hour, gusting to 22 miles an hour. And that's going to be a factor. Some things, it seems, never change in Chicago. 1963, this was at Wrigley Field. It was 11 degrees that day. This was early here at Soldier Field, and it's 12 degrees on this day. Good afternoon. I'm Pat Summerall. Welcome to CBS Sports divisional playoff game between the Bears and the visiting New York Giants. With me, of course, is John Madden. And John, given those wind conditions, weather conditions we just talked about, how tough is it going to be to throw the football?
I think it's going to be tough, but I also think it's great. You know, but when the wind is coming this way and you're going that way, it gets just about impossible to throw on this field. But I think both teams are ready for that. I know that they feel that they have to run and they have to stop the run. In talking to the Bears, they say to beat the Giants, we have to stop number 20, Joe Morris. And then you talk to the Giants, and they say if we're going to beat the Bears, we're going to have to stop Walter Payton.
John, there's another factor. These two teams come into this game totally differently prepared. The Bears had that week off. The Giants had a tough match last week with San Francisco. Is that week off, is the extra rest, how much of an advantage is that going to be?
I don't know if that's an advantage. You know, sometimes when you can keep things rolling, it's not bad. And that's what the Giants are doing. They haven't had a lot of time to think about this game. They had a very physical game last week. They regrouped, they practiced, they flew in here last night. They're out on the field, and I know they're ready. Now, the Bears, on the other hand, they had more time to think about it. They had 2 weeks. Last week, they went to Suwannee, Georgia, and they had just about a training camp. They would meet in the morning, practice in the afternoon, meet at night, 11 o'clock curfew. Mike Ditka says this team is antsy. So what we have is a team, the Giants, that really haven't had a chance to think about this game against a team, the Bears, that have a long time to think about it, and they're antsy.
Well, the Bears are lined up in their kickoff formation. That's Kevin Butler. The Giants won the toss and elected to receive. Lee Roussan is number 22, back in the middle for the Giants. Ben Dreit is the referee. The Giants will be fighting that gusty wind. Adams is back on Roussan's left. Tony Galbraith is over on his right. Ball blew off the tee. Butler got it reset. And the kick sails to Roussan at the 5. He dropped it. Some room. Roussan gets out to the 20, stopped by Reggie Phillips. And the Giants will take over at their own 20. Going into the wing will be Phil Simms, the quarterback, Joe Morris, and Rob Carpenter, the runners. Bobby Johnson and Lionel Manuel, the wide receivers. Up front, it's Benson Oates, Godfrey Nelson, and the tight end, Mark Bavaro. Roussan got it right back to the 20. Morris is the deep back. Here comes Manuel in motion. Simms on first down. He gets about 6. Gary Fencik made the stop. The Bear defense, the league's best. Hampton, McMichael, the refrigerator, William Perry, and Richard Dent. Otis Wilson, Mike Singletary, and Wilbur Marshall, the linebackers. The secondary has Richardson and Frazier on the corners, and Duerson and Fencik, the safety men. Second down. Morris breaks a tackle, gets into the Bear secondary. All the way to the 40-yard line before Steve McMichael can get him down from behind. A gain of 14, a Giant first down.
Well, Joe Morris said last night, he said, we think that we can run against this Bear defense. A lot of people just look at it and they haven't even tried. Of course, the Bears haven't played against Joe Morris. Now, he's tough. You see, he comes out there, they don't see him. When they finally see him, boom, he's right on top of him.
Morris only 5'7", but he is strong. Manuel is the move man. Simms to Morris again. This time there's nothing to it. Mike Singletary in the middle. Gary Fencik with the assist. No gain.
Well, they played that cutback well. That's one of the things the Bear defense is talking about. That with Morris, you can't over-pursue. When he starts one way, you have to stay behind him because he'll start that way and then zip, just cut right back.
2nd and 10. Giants at their own 40-yard line. The opening series of the game. Giants operate now with 3 wide receivers. Here comes a Bear blitz. Wide open in the middle is Rob Carpenter. He's over. And the Bears get it back, I believe. Chicago. Singletary made the recovery.
You know, the Bear defense looks like they weren't ready here. They were worried about the 3 wide receivers all adjusting. No one covered Rob Carpenter. He sneaked through the line, and then boom, caught that ball, and you see what happened as he started to run with it. That's the toughest thing, is that guy coming from behind and hitting your arm.
Bear first down, their own 49. Jim McMahon, the quarterback. Both wide receivers are to the right. This is McKinnon in motion. McMahon to Payton. Pickup of 4. Harry Carson on the stop. The Bear offense. McMahon, the quarterback. Payton and Suhey, the runners. And McKinnon, the wide receivers. The offensive line has Covert, Bortz, Hilgenberg, Thayer, Van Horn, and Emery Moorhead starting at tight end. Second down and 6 from the Giant 47. Suhey. Again, it's Payton. Inside the 45 to about the 43. The Giant defensive unit. McGriff, Burt, and Leonard Marshall. The linebackers, Hunt, Reasons, Carson, and Lawrence Taylor. And in the secondary, Patterson, who was injured last week, but back starting. And Perry Williams, the cornerbacks. Kenny Hill and Terry Kennard, the safeties. Third down and 2. Moorhead moves to the other side. Again, Payton. Don't believe he got it. Carson met him right at the pass.
I tell you, that was some collision right there on that side when Payton was coming. This will be an interesting call. It'll be 4th down. Of course, they're either going to have to go for it or punt. There's no way they could kick a field goal from this distance.
It would be a 60-yarder. And on a cold day like this, that would be a tough assignment. So it is, as you said, a punt. Maury Buford averaging 42.4. Phil McConkey back for the Giants. That's a pretty tough son that McConkey will be looking into. Well into the end zone and out. And it'll come back to the 20. 43-yard punt. And Phil Simms in the offense of the Giants will return.
We're in this ice house where you can see breath to demonstrate the power of Dristan nasal spray. This woman's nose is clogged. Hardly any breath shows. Now, Dristan long lasting.
Amazing! I'm breathing.
Just one spray treatment has the staying power to clear congestion as long as 6 4-hour cold capsules. That's 12-hour relief. And 12 hours later?
I'm still breathing.
Dristan long-lasting with the staying power of 6 4-hour cold capsules.
That'll give you a pretty good idea that it's not a warm, sunny day. Temperature when the game started was 12 degrees. And with the wind chill factor, it feels like it's minus 13. And that wind is tough down there on the field.
Well, that's the biggest thing. I know, you know, the players feel that once the game starts and you get running around and the adrenaline, you're pumping, cold doesn't bother you. But wind does, and it affects what you can do with the ball.
1st and 10 Giants from their own 20. It's Morris again to the outside. Morris ducks under a couple of Bears. Otis Wilson and Mike Richardson come up to make the stop. Interesting.
Well, one of those things would have to give, you would assume. The Giants, if they're going to rush for 153 yards, then the Bears defense isn't going to do what they've done.
They only got a yard on that carry. So that makes it 2nd and 9 from the 21. 3 wide receivers, I beg your pardon, it's just 2, but a new one, McConkey. Morris was cut down by Fencik.
You know, it's an interesting thing that this Bear defense does in their defensive coordinator, Buddy Ryan, working with Fencik. is they take a couple of series to decide what they're going to do. They give different defenses, different looks, and they have players on the sideline assigned to watch guys. Then they finally figure out what they can do, what the other team can't block, and that's what they go with in the game.
And the Giants come out of the spread now. Now it's McConkey in motion. Here comes Otis Wilson all over Sims. Incomplete. Sims just barely got rid of it.
You know, that was an interesting defense, Pat, that the Bears haven't used. See, they only have 3 defensive linemen, but in the Bear look. Then they have the linebackers. This is Otis Wilson over here. He's going to come from this side on the... See, they usually have the 4 defensive linemen. Here they only have 3. They stunt to the outside. There goes Otis Wilson.
Landetta's kick comes to Keith Ortego. Ortego gets back to about the 41, where the Bears will take over with 9:01 left to play in the first quarter. 40-yard punt by Sean Landetta. A return of 5.
You can see those Giant coaches talking about it on the sideline. What they did is they showed the Bear look. It usually has 4 defensive linemen, but it was only 3 defensive linemen. Linebackers on both sides. See, they're trying to say it was a bear. They said it was a bear, and they said, no, it wasn't a bear.
They call it the diamond.
Yeah.
The so-called bear look.
But it's a fake diamond,
right.
Is what it is. What's those fake diamonds called?
Zircon, I think.
Yeah, zircon. It's a zircon.
Outside to Payton. And Payton struggles for about 6 yards. Gary Reason's on the stop. Bears all-time leading rusher, of course, but also the all-time leading receiver.
And he's probably also the leading running back that throws the ball and leading running back that blocks and leading guy that does everything on this team.
Whatever category you can come up with, Payton would be the leader.
Football player is a pretty good category.
That's not bad. McMahon starts Suhey in motion again. Gives to Payton, who's piled up by Marshall. And Burt. And the rest of the middle of the Giant defense.
They used old Matt Suhey as an extra pulling guard. Watch Leonard Marshall get off the block here at Jim Covert. See, he gets into him, gets both on him, reads the play, and right down the line of scrimmage. That's what Leonard Marshall has improved so much over the years, and that's one of the areas, being able to see the difference between run and pass and react to it.
The Giants are expecting pass now. They've got their pass rush unit in there, which includes George Martin at left end. The handoff is to Payton. Behind the blocker. Payton doesn't get the first down. Elvis Patterson and Harry Carson were the first to arrive.
You know, I'm surprised. You know, this game started. It's a conservative start in a football game. And we have yet to see our first forward pass. I know the Bears like to run in that situation to Payton, but you think that wouldn't have been a bad passing down there because it wasn't 3rd and long, and you had the wind with you. You think if you're going to do it, you would have done it in that situation.
Buford in the punt for the Bears. McConkey back deep for the Giants. That one will stay up there a long time. McConkey feels it. Dodges one Bear. And Matt Suhey brought him down. 34-yard punt by Buford. McConkey brought it back 5. 0-0. First quarter with 6:39 left. Pat Summerall, John Madden. We're at Soldier Field in Chicago. 0-0 the score between the Bears and the Giants.
You know, there's something to this. You know, these playoff games, and they usually, because of the finality, they usually get a lot more conservative play.
It seems it happens every year. Sims to Morris on first down. Morris around the corner, stopped by Otis Wilson. Wilbur Marshall with the assist. He just got 2. The Giants have the 5th best offense in the NFL. The Bears the best defense in the NFL. Something's got to give.
There's that Zircon defense again, that phony diamond. The 3 defensive linemen, linebackers on either side. Watch for the blitz.
Those 2 guys on the outside. Watch them. Watch Duerson. Duerson started, then backed off. The Giants get it outside. Sims just threw it away in the direction of Carpenter.
See, here's the thing. I'm talking about the diamond. Here's the thing they call the diamond, but there's usually a 4th. Now there's only 3. Here's Duerson. Here's the guy that comes from the outside. You see, it's only man line. Duerson gets up fake. Here comes Wilson from this side. Marshall coming from up on the top side. Of course, that is a little confusing. Look, the Giants haven't seen this because it's the first time the Bears have played it, and they're in it again.
3rd and long, 3rd and 8. Sims from the spread. Here comes the blitz again. That's Richard Dent, though. It was not a blitz. It was just a 3-man rush with a stunt up front.
See, now they're all talking about how good this defense is. What it is, see, here's the 3 linemen. Here's Dent, here's Hampton, here's McMichael. This is the guy that finally gets him. You see the 3-man line, the stunt. Dent starts from the right side, comes out, loops out to the left, gets right up the middle, and fills Simmons.
And Landetta stands back in his end zone. Ortigo. The kick is blocked. Duerson picked it up, I believe. Not sure who got it yet. Sean Gale, number 23, scored the touchdown. You know, I'm not sure anybody hit that ball. He just missed it off the side of his foot.
I don't think it was blocked. I think it was more of a shank job or just a miss. You know, sometimes the wind can affect a drop.
Butler for the extra point. Fuller the holder. Bears lead at 7-0.
Playoff pressure can affect drops. Let's just see if we can see it here. I don't think there was anyone blocked there. You see, that's just a shank. He just hit that ball. I mean, he dropped it, and he didn't kick it where you normally do.
Watch this.
Watch how low the ball is before it hits his foot. He starts here, look, it's almost to the ground. He just dropped that ball and missed it. That's the old miss. Now, the wind could have something, you know, as the ball dropped, the wind could have moved it a little.
The drop looked so funny. It was an end-over-end drop.
I know that it was too low. I wonder, he's explaining there. See, they always have the reason for it, but maybe the ball fell off his hand.
The wind is blowing, or was blowing, almost directly in Landetta's face. Look at this again.
I don't think I've ever seen that before. He drops the ball and misses it.
It doesn't even look like he touched it.
Well, you know, it looks like a funny drop. It looks like it was a low drop, but he also dropped it too far out in front of him.
I agree with you. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that.
I'll tell you one thing. Wind does psych out kickers. I talked to Landetta on the field before the game. He told me, he says, you can't kick in this weather.
Butler to Roussan. Lee Roussan on the kickoff return, and it's a good one. Out to the 45. Out of bounds is Lee Roussan by Reggie Phillips.
You know, it's funny in these games, you talk about offense, defense, Payton, Morris, Stop, McMahon, Sims, the whole thing. And it usually boils down to something like that, a special teams play. You know, a block punt, or the punter misses the ball.
You and I have seen a lot of football games, and I don't think I've ever seen that happen before.
I never could punt. Yeah, I mean, I was one of those kids that was always chunky, I never got to punt much, but when I did, I never had one like that.
Sims to throw on first down. Gets it outside to Mark Bavaro. Bavaro gets about 8 to the Bear 45 before Duerson takes him down. A gain of 8.
One thing Bill Parcells told us last night is that the Giants are not going to play a conservative offensive game. That they're going to come out, they're going to throw on first down, and they're going to have a plan and not tighten up when they get in the playoffs or against the Bears.
We're going to take some shots, he said. Second down, it's short. Morris doesn't get it. Wilbur Marshall brings down Joe Morris.
That's the thing. You just have to get him blocked on that play. We'll see Wilbur Marshall right here coming off the thing. They just didn't get him blocked. He comes up there, he's putting pressure off the corner, and they're not counting him. They're trying to dive inside him, but if he's coming tough off that corner, someone has to turn out on him. You have to get a man on him.
Third and about 1.5 yards. Maurice Carthen now joins Morris. He's the blocker. And he got a good block. Richard Dent from behind brings down Morris short of the first down.
Here's Richard Dent. Watch him. Comes all the way across the field. The guy that held it up was 55, Otis Wilson. He stopped him, and then Dent was able to get behind to make the play. Let's see if Sean Landetta can get the ball to drop on his foot.
No laughing matter. A good high kick. He caught all that one. Ortego signals fair catch. The Giants are down in good shape and down it inside the 10. A punt of 36 yards. The Bears will take over at their own 9, leading 7-0 with 3:07 left to play first quarter. Left to play in the first quarter. And the Bears, touchdown by Sean Gale, the most unusual one. Bears ball their own 9, leading 7-0. Jim Burt looking into the backfield. McMahon asks for quiet. To Willie Gault. Gault to about the 34, stopped by Terry Kennard, a pickup of 25.
I think Jim McMahon took a shot after he threw that ball too, but McMahon was saying one thing: Willie Gault has to have a game for us today. He said it the other night in a meeting. Mike Ditka told him right in the middle of the milling, he said, "We need you, Willie Gault." Watch the shot that McMahon takes right here. He's thrown the ball's gone. Kenny Hill comes in from a strong safety blitz.
Here comes a new look on Giant defense. Lawrence Taylor in the middle. And 2 linebackers down. That's Burt.
Now this is the version that the Giants are giving. Let's see if we can see this again, how Lawrence Taylor gets in here. They put Harry Carson up in the line as a defensive lineman. Gary Reason's on the other side. And right in here behind is Lawrence Taylor playing the middle linebacker. See, they cover all the linemen. Then Lawrence Taylor is right in behind. You see 56 here where they can't block him because they cover everyone.
Nobody can get to him. Taylor moves to the outside this time. And Suhey moves in front of him. McMahon back to throw. McMahon will run with it. And slide. Harry Carson made sure he stayed down as McMahon scrambled for a first down.
Jim McMahon jumped up and started pointing. You know, it was funny. The guy who was going to make the play on him was Kenny Hill, who had blitzed him and hit him after he threw the ball earlier to Willie Gault. You know, that's one thing about McMahon. When he goes back to pass, he's looking for his receivers. But in doing that, if you ever give him an open lane and he can see clear running room, he's always going to take it.
He took it for 10 and a first down for the Bears. Their own 47. McKinnon wide right, Gault wide left. A draw play to Payton, caught from behind by Marshall. See who else is under the bottom of that pile. Curtis McGriff.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. That play that Leonard Marshall made there was just like the one that Richard Dent made. And the thing that I like about both of these guys is there were 2 sackers in the league, but they also play the run. Watch Leonard Marshall there. You see, he tries to cut him right down the line and makes a play from behind against Payton. Dent did the same thing earlier, making the play from behind on the opposite side of the field.
2nd and 9. McMahon back. Hit by Marshall again. He's going deep for Gault, who has it hit him in the hands and bounce away. Harry Williams was back there with him. McMahon again under pressure.
One thing, Willie Gault can run, but Perry Williams can also run. Perry Williams got turned around on that play. Gault was coming to the inside. He just got one hand up.
And that's the end of the first quarter with the Bears leading 7-0. McMahon to McKinnon. And he'll have the first down with an urge. Stopped by Elvis Patterson. A gain of 8.
The Bears really had their 4 wide receivers in here. And we watch McKinnon. He starts to the outside, lets the other guys come inside him. Then he comes back to the inside against Elvis Patterson. Patterson, injured a week ago, worked out this week. He looked pretty good on that play.
We're going to decline a penalty. First down.
While we were in that replay, a good 5 or 10 seconds after the play was over, the yellow flag came flying out.
You know, when the play happened, I thought someone was offsides. It looked like someone on that right side, like in the area of Leonard Marshall, jumped offsides, and I didn't see a flag. Maybe it got frozen in his pocket.
Maybe. In any case, they declined the penalty. It's a Bear first down. Hand off to Suhey for the first time today. Taylor on the tackle, but Suhey got 6.
You know, an interesting play here. You hardly ever see this, Pat, but Jay Hilgenberg, who made the Pro Bowl this year, is one of the few centers that can do this. He snaps the ball, then he pulls down and kicks out to his right. Now, you never see that, especially when the center's covered. Bring the guard down, there's Hilgenberg. He comes down on Hunt, and they run inside. That's the kind of respect that these Bears have for the things that Hilgenberg can do.
Boy, he can get out of there in a hurry.
With a nose tackle over him.
Suhey on the move again. And McMahon sidearms one to Suhey. Looks like it'll be short of the first down. A gain of only 3.
Lawrence Taylor's there talking to Matt Suhey. That was his man. That was that special defense of the Giants that time. They call it Fire Lion Zero. And here we can see it, and we can see that the linebackers are down. That's when Lawrence Taylor plays as a middle linebacker. Here he's having Suhey's going after him, saying, I got you. Touch tackle.
3rd and about a foot. Motion this time, and the pitch is back to Suhey, who has the first down. Moves inside the Giant 30. A gain of 5. Carl Banks on the stop. They both feel they have to be able to run. Their head coach, Mike Ditka.
Well, you know, that's the type of thing that usually goes. Usually a good running game goes with a strong defense. And you figure that you want to run, you want to control the ball, don't do anything stupid. Don't take a lot of chances. And, don't let your offense make mistakes and lose the game for you, and let your defense win it for you.
Gault split wide to the left. Payton again in motion. McMahon down the middle to Gault. He juggled it but held on. Lawrence Taylor made the stop.
Mike Ditka and Jim McMahon were both saying yesterday that one of Willie Gault's problem is confidence. And we're saying that I hope the first time we throw him the ball, he catches it. Because if he does, then he gets the confidence. Then they can keep throwing the ball. You see, that time he did something that he hadn't done a lot all year, catching the ball out in front, not letting it get into his body where it can hit his shoulder pads and bounce out.
Marjoram is now the man in motion. McMahon under pressure again. Throws for McKinnon. Incomplete. Under pressure from Taylor.
Jim McMahon was saying that he and Ken Marjoram, who's a backup wide receiver in the Bears, he said, we're on the same wavelength. And he said, Mike Ditka's told us about Marjoram. He said, you never know where that guy's going. He's from California, and they kind of do what they want. And McMahon says, yeah. Same Marjoram are same wavelength. That time they weren't. Ditka's not on their wavelength. Those two guys are on one, and Mike Ditka's on another.
2nd and 10 from the 13. They give to Payton. He got a couple. Lawrence Taylor again on the bottom of the pile.
One reason that the other reason that the Bears don't pass a lot, or one of the reasons, they really haven't solidified their pass protection. Because every time McMahon's gone back, there's been guys hanging on around him pretty good. So they got to get that settled down before they go into a lot of passing.
Been a good-looking drive, hasn't it? Kept it a little bit over 7 minutes. 3rd and 7. Here at the 10. McMahon on a rollout throws back to Suhey, who just barely got it off the turf. Suhey from behind by Harry Carson. And the Bears will have to settle for a field goal attempt by Kevin Butler.
Well, that was going big play. What they did is they rolled or sprinted to the right and screened back there to Suhey. In other words, the lineman pulled left, Suhey went left, McMahon went right. Mike Ditka says with all that stuff, guys going left, guys going right, half a package here, half a package there, we should have at least gotten the first down.
This will be from about 27 yards, 26. The end of the win by Kevin Butler. He's had a great year. Wide to Butler's left, and no good. So the Bears put together a good drive, but get nothing out of it. 7-0. The Bears over the Giants with 9.5 minutes left to play in the first half.
The NBA's premier point guard will be Magic Johnson and the world champion Lakers.
Soldier Field in Chicago. The Bears 13-17 in time of possession. The Giants 7-12. 7-0. Morris is split wide to the right this time. Sims with the wind at his back. And pressure all over it. Ball is on the ground. Richard Dent was one of the Bears who, it's a loss of 12. The Bears are saying we got it.
What it was Otis Wilson coming into Sims's face. Dent coming from the backside. Sims did fumble the ball. I guess he must have ended up with it. But Otis Wilson was coming on a blitz from into Sims. This is a backside. 95 Dent is coming from his backside. See Wilson there? Wilson gets there first. Dent gets there. The ball is fumbled. Giants must have recovered it.
Sims must have gotten it back himself, and they were lucky. 2nd down and 22. Hampton in the backfield with Morris, and the handoff is to Morris. He's around the corner. Outside the 10 to about the 13 before Leslie Frazier. Here's that last play.
Watch it. Here comes Wilson to this side. Dent from the backside. Dent strips the ball. Watch him. That right hand just goes and he hits the ball, knocks it right out of Sims's hand. I don't know who recovered that. It had to be the Giants.
There it is.
It went between Sims's legs and it rolls right back into him. I'll tell you, that was a lucky break.
Oh, yeah. 3rd and 17. Sims going for a bundle. Bobby Johnson was the intended receiver. Leslie Frazier right back there with him. Most people think that the way to beat that Bear defense is if you can block them, you can work on the 2 cornerbacks. The problem is getting them blocked. That's Dan Hampton.
You know, Dan Hampton has hand and finger troubles and has had numerous operations on those. In fact, he said he would rather have healthy hands and bad knees than bad knees and healthy hands.
Ortego will field Landetta's punt. And the Giants are down in a hurry. Keith Ortego breaks a couple of tackles. And the Bears will take over at their own 40. Gary Reasons was the man down. There is Hampton. Elbows scraped, hands bleeding. Look at all the bandage.
There's a timeout.
2 weeks from today, the season premiere of CBS Sports Sunday, featuring the 1985 All-Madden team and the World Triathlon Championships at 4:30 Eastern Time. John and I will be somewhere to make that announcement. Will that qualify Dan Hampton as a member of the team, you think?
I won't say anyone that's on or everyone that's on the team. I will say that this guy is Dan Hampton. Not because of that either. I mean, this guy plays hard inside, outside, nicknamed Danimal. You gotta like those kind of guys. There's
Calvin Thomas has replaced Suhey, and he gets the carry. He gets the attention of Harry Carson and Carl Banks, and a gain of 5. Bears leading 7-0.
2nd and 5.
2nd and 5 make it. Bear defense, Bear offense rather, than the Giant defense. The average during 1985's regular season. 2nd and 5 right here. Bears operating from their own 45. Pretty good move. Payton only got 1. Carl Banks again on the bottom of the pile.
This is a tough thing. You know, I think sometimes when you run on 1st down, you like to create that 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5 situation. And then when the Bears did, you would think that that would be a good passing down.
Like Lawrence Taylor got stung a little on that last play.
You know, one thing about being cold, when you get stung a little, it stings more than stung a little. I mean, when it's, you know, like 10 degrees, stung a little stings a lot.
And lasts longer. 3rd down. McMahon out of the spread. Caught by Gault. Harry Williams, the defender. Gault came back to it.
He made a great adjustment. The ball was underthrown. He is going on a deep pattern up. He's trying to get by Perry Williams there. Now the ball's thrown. He sees it. Williams doesn't yet. Williams keeps going. Gault is able to stop and catch the ball. I'll tell you, that's pretty good. You know, Willie Gault, of course, has great speed. I mean, he's probably the fastest man in the NFL, or one of the fastest men in the NFL. That has never been his problem. Catching the ball has been his problem.
That's what he did at 85. He has 3 today for 68 yards. First down, Bears at the Giant 25. They pretty much control the first half. Reverse coming to McKinnon. Chased by Marshall. McKinnon gets away from the first one. Jim Burt is out there along with Lawrence Taylor.
I'll tell you one thing, Jim McMahon, whether he got a block on Marshall or not, it was a pretty good thing. Well, watch this. The ball starts here, reverse comes back. McMahon, the quarterback, starts out here. He gets a little block right here, and the reverse gets by. But whether McMahon made a block or not, the fact that he tried to see the reverse, there's McMahon up there. Watch, he says, I got you, Marshall. Boom, I'll cut you. That's not a bad little deal for a quarterback.
Certainly not.
But, you know, he's a different type of quarterback anyway. This guy's a different guy.
That's something to do with that wavelength you were talking about.
He's on another wavelength.
Here's McMahon, chased. Gets away from one man, is hit down by Duerson. Andy Hedden was the first one to put the pressure. McMahon got one. Total offense so far. The Bears, as I said, very much in control of the first half. 4:23 left to play.
Yeah, one thing about McMahon, though, I always like that type of quarterback. I don't think that you can have a quarterback who is a normal guy. I mean, that's not a normal position. They don't do normal things. And I don't think there's been many great ones that have been normal.
I can't remember.
Roger Staubach's probably the closest, but he had a few quirks.
Here's McMahon. Going for McKinnon, who can't come up with it. Elvis Patterson back there with him. Again, it was underthrown.
His receivers are adjusting well, though. He's underthrowing some. Even McKinnon, you see, he stops. He lets Patterson go by, jumps up, and just can't keep a hold of that thing.
Ditka was saying they're going to throw the ball at the sidelines because they didn't think that where Terry Kennard plays is the free safety. He can get over to help out.
That's the way to get deep. They think that, you know, by keeping the ball outside that they can do that.
Kevin Butler will try from 49 yards out. No. Flag is down. Penalty marker down.
That whole thing was surprising, that whole deal, because it looked like they were going to punt, and then they switched to a field goal, and they were kicking that long one into the wind. It never did have a chance. I don't think the Bear team was set.
Illegal motion, number 71, declining. It's first down the other way.
And they'll bring the ball back to the line of scrimmage, and the Giants dodge another bullet. Andy Frederick was number 71, whom the penalty was called against. 3:45 left in the first half. Bears 7, the Giants nothing. Closing minutes of the first half. Here's Bortz trying to get around the corner and can't get around the corner. William and Otis Wilson. Joe Morris stayed down a long time, and now he heads for the sideline. He had some bruised ribs.
Well, you tend to get bruised ribs again when the refrigerator, when big William Perry comes running down that line. I tell you, that was some play by that guy. I mean, he made his hit. Boom, he went right down the line and got Joe Morris just about the line of scrimmage. When he falls on you, that'll shake a few ribs.
Here comes Dent. Pass incomplete. Sims had no time. Dent from the opposite side where he normally is. They move him over on the left sometime. That's where he was then.
They're just going to have to get these things blocked from the outside. It's always, whether it's from the right or left, Dent from the left this time. On Nelson, he started outside, came underneath him and right into Sims, but they've really been giving him problems. Either Wilson coming from that side or Dent coming from that side or both of them coming from opposite sides.
Sims from the shotgun. Third down, and they need about 8. Now he sprints out to try to buy some time and throws upfield and throws well over the head of Phil McConkey. And the Giants will have to punt again. They've made only 1 first down in the entire first half.
And unless they start getting Richard Dent and Otis Wilson clock, they aren't going to make a lot more first down.
Landeta back to kick. He's standing back at about the 25 for the Bears. Off the side of his foot a little bit. Should take a good roll. I'd say it took an excellent roll. They down it at the 4. A kick that didn't look like much in the beginning, but turns out to be a 62-yard punt. There's Morris, who had to leave just a minute ago.
Because he got injured. He had some injured ribs a week ago, but as I was saying, this will tend to shake him up. But watch Perry coming down there. You know, they laugh a lot about his playing offense and stuff, but he is an active defensive guy.
Amazingly quick to be as big as he is. How many fingers?
I don't think that one. I don't think that they're checking Joe Morris's ribs on that thing. I think that's his reaction, his reflexes, and his jaw.
It appears to be okay. 10 carries, 30 yards for Morris. The Bears felt they had to control him, and thus far they have. McMahon and Payton. I think you'd have to say that the Giants have done a pretty good job against Payton.
I was just going to say the Giant defense has done a good job of containment. I mean, if it hadn't been for the punter not being able to find the ball with his foot, this would be 0-0 game.
Payton has carried 10 times for 25 yards. Morris has 30.
Well, everyone said it would be a defensive struggle, and that's what we're getting here.
Well, the number 1 and number 2 defenses. Parcells calls timeout with 2:14 left to play in the first half. Nats have 2 left now. The Bears have 3 left. The Bears lead it 7-0 with 2:14 left to play in the first half.
Well, I finally did it. I've given up this surfing
challenge. The men's singles final live at 12 Eastern time. 7 of the world's top players will participate, followed by basketball, a doubleheader. Georgetown against St. John's and Notre Dame against DePaul, or possibly USC against Washington. That's live after the tennis, and that's next Saturday. Situation here is the Bears leading 7-0. They have the ball their own 7-yard line. 1st and 10. I beg your pardon. 2nd down.
Bill Parcells was taking that timeout. He wants to pin the Bears down here, get the ball back with some time.
Well, 2nd and 6, and the Bears get the first down anyway. Curtis McGriff stopped Payton after a pickup of 11 yards.
You know, that play doesn't look like a lot, but that was a big, big play. Because now they get the 2-minute warning. The Bears got the first down. The Giants were trying to take the timeouts, get the ball back, get them pinned down, make them punt into the wind.
Instead, Payton got 11. McMahon comes over for a visit.
And I think you see when this is why Payton's Payton. You know, that when you need that play, you need the big play, you have to get off the goal line, you have to get out of trouble, you give it to Walter. Just gets out, makes a couple cuts, gets it up the sideline, and gets the first down for him.
11 years, and he's only failed to start 1 game in those 11 years.
And that's amazing. And I think when you talk to other players about Walter Payton, and I know Joe Morris was saying it last night, he said, I have idols. He said, but I'll tell you, I respect Walter Payton more than anyone because I know what it's like to go through it a couple years. And this guy's been doing it for 11 years, and in those 11 years, there was only 1 game that he didn't start. Joe Morris has shoulder and ribs and knee, all the stuff he's done. He said, I have no idea how that guy's done it.
Well, it is truly remarkable. The winner of today's game plays the victorious Rams of yesterday. The Rams looked tough shutting out Dallas, didn't they?
I'll tell you, they did, and I think they should be congratulated for the job that they've done. You know, they call themselves the Rodney Dangerfields of football because they've had a great record, and all year they haven't gotten a lot of respect. But old Dickerson had a great day yesterday, didn't he? In the special teams, turnovers, and all that stuff.
Is that a tribute to you, I believe?
Nah.
No?
Just Bears fever. They're wild here. These people in Chicago, I mean, people that never talk about football, that haven't been football fans, they all do have this Bear fever stuff going. This time, I mean, they have dances and songs
and everywhere you look, you see the Bear colors. Not just at the stadium. On first down. Payton again. And he is cut off by Banks. And let's see if Bill Parcells takes another timeout now. He has 2 left.
I think after they got that first down, Bill Parcells said that it's not as good a deal as it would have been before. I don't think they're going to take the timeout. I think that he feels pretty comfortable. They can just let the Bears clock here and go in just down 7-0. That's really not a bad position.
Dennis Gentry checks in and lines up on the flank to the left side. Calvin Thomas is the other back. Now Gentry comes back even with him. Reitman in motion. Pitches back to Calvin Thomas. And nothing there for him. That'll bring up a third down situation, and now they might take another timeout. Kenny Hill came up to make the stop.
Now it's starting to look a little better because you stop them there. Now they're going to be in 3rd and long, so now you do use your timeout.
And they have 1 remaining. Icy Soldier Field. Which on the last play. Watch this.
Well, it's his own guy. Watch Jim Burt 64. Harry Carson comes in right here. You don't see it. It's right after that. His own guy, Harry, hit him in the back.
3rd and 8 from the 20. 1:06 left to play in the first half. Marjoram in motion. They give on a draw play to Gentry. And he gets nothing. Lost a yard, perhaps. And the Giants will use their last timeout.
Right, and now the Giants have to take their timeout, and it's not bad. I wouldn't be surprised making that guy punt into the wind, and they come with some pressure on him.
Well, you saw what happened earlier to Landeta when he was punting out of his end zone into the wind.
And you know the other thing that Bill Parcells could have reminded Phil McConkey about, if it's a short kick, take a fair catch. You know, don't do anything. If we can get the ball inside that 40, take a fair catch.
Because then you get a free kick. Don't forget this at the half. Brent and Irv and Dan Deerdorf with the highlights. Tribute to the great Bill Veeck. And a look back at yesterday's playoff games. All coming up at the half, which is 1 minute, 1 second away. Maury Buford, the Bear punter, punting into the wind. Phil McConkey will be back deep.
So the Giants should get pretty good field position here. That's the good news. The bad news is they really haven't gotten that pass protection down yet.
And they've used all their timeouts. You're right. They haven't been able to protect Sims. Came after him. Ball bounces back to the Bear 45, and they finally down at about the 6. A punt of 26 yards. Giants yards passing. None. They completed one pass to Carpenter, but he fumbled. Since then, it's been nothing doing. Sims brings them out at the 45. They go with 3 wide receivers, and Sims operates out of the shotgun. Crowd is loud. Here comes Hampton after it. Pass is caught by George Adams. Adams inside the Bear, 20 down, out of bounds at the 14. Clock stops with 42 seconds remaining. Frazier brought him down, a gain of 31.
Well, they did the thing that they wanted to. They got their back on a linebacker. That was Mike Singletary, the middle linebacker. He had to cover Adams. Sims sees it. He gets the rush. Here's Adams. There's Singletary covering him. He gets him beat. Singletary can't catch up with him. And Adams gets the ball down to the 14-yard line.
Sims did a good job of getting that ball there because Hampton was right in his face. They operate from the spread again. Duerson showing blitz, and there he comes. Sims rolls out right. Sims in the end zone. Incomplete, intended for McConkey. Sean Gale was back there with him. Sims under pressure from Duerson.
Oh, the Giants had the right play call there because Duerson was coming on a blitz. He's coming from this side up here. Sims takes the ball and rolls out to this side, and he's able to get outside. See, right behind the goal pass. See, here comes Duerson. Sims says, I see that coming. Pack them all in there, and I'll sprint out to the right and buy some. He had McConkey open, too.
Yes, he did.
We're behind him.
36 seconds remain in the first half. Here comes a Bear blitz again. Pass is incomplete, but there's a flag on the play. Now it took 5 seconds. Sims has really been running for his life.
Well, one thing you can be assured of with Buddy Ryan, the defensive coordinator of the Bears, if he blitzes you and it works, or if he blitzes you and you become unsettled, you are going to get a heavy, heavy dose of blitz.
It's a false start on the offense, number 60.
Brad
Please
Benson.
Put 5 seconds back on the clock. 5 seconds.
Watch the left tackle out there. You see number 60, Brad Benson. He saw the blitz coming. He overloaded the big pass rush. He just got a little early jump on it. Now what happened is when Benson moved, then they blew the whistle. So what happened is that play wouldn't have counted, so then they let the clock go. So Ben Dreith, the referee, tells them, please put 5 minutes back on the clock.
5 seconds.
5 seconds, yeah. If you put 5 minutes back, gee, that would be, you could have another half a quarter.
That's the first penalty of the day. So we still have 36 seconds remaining. It's second down and 15. The ball's on the 19. Sims got manual. Bobby Johnson out of bounds inside the 5. It's a catch. Frazier was back there.
That was great timing there. Phil Sims just got the ball and immediately just released it. Watch him. He takes the ball 1, 2, 3 and just goes right up there. Johnson isn't ready yet, isn't open, throws it over, leads him. I'll tell you, that was quite a catch. He just caught that right over his head, had his feet in. I don't know if his feet were in or not, but he did a good job of getting his head out of the way to catch the ball. I don't think his feet were
close. On first down, Sims goes again. Oh, he almost had a touchdown. It was picked off, I believe, by Frazier, but he was out of bounds.
We almost had a lot of things on that thing. As you say, we almost had a touchdown, we almost had a pickoff, and we ended up with an incomplete pass. But it was the same type of thing, just a timing pass out there. This is what Sims is doing now, getting the shorter drop, the quicker release, just getting the ball out there. That was right in Bobby Johnson's hands. Woo!
Morris is back in the game. The Giants are out of timeouts, so they pretty much got to put it up, although in there, I don't know. Hasselbeck in motion. Sims back to throw. Throwing for Hasselbeck. High over his head, way out of the end zone. Mike Richardson was back there, number 27, with Hasselbeck.
That was a smart thing by Phil Sims on that play. He just threw it away. They only had one man in the pattern, Don Hasselbeck, and he wasn't open, so Sims just threw it out of the end zone. So they get one more shot here at the end zone.
Bear defense is tough in this area, as that graphic would indicate. 22 seconds. It's 3rd and goal. Manuel in motion. And back quick for the corner. And over the head of Bobby Johnson. And now you got to go for the field goal.
Have to go for the field goal, but I think they established a couple of things. Obviously, one, they had a pretty good run at it. They had a good move. They're going to get down there and get a field goal here. The other thing is maybe shorten your drop, maybe get rid of the ball quicker, because they did have some success with that.
Schubert, who had some problems last week, from 19 yards away with Rutledge holding. No good. Off the upright. It hit the upright.
And that fires those Bears up, and that field goal kicking has to come back to haunt the Giants. Last week, Eric Schubert was 1 out of 4. That's just, I know you don't like to say chip shot, you don't like to say gimme, but that was close. He just went boop and hit the upright. That's a job.
Like an extra point.
Watch it, it's right there in the left hash. So he has to kick it a little inside. He just kicks it straight up the thing. Hits the upright, doink. Bounce right out. Sometimes if those things bounce right, they can hit the upright and bounce in. Mike gave that a triple pump. I mean, when you get that close and they're supposed to make it, you give a triple pump, pump, pump. When you miss it, you don't give it any pumps. Just take your helmet off.
And look down. 11 seconds remaining. Giants out of timeouts. The Bears will be content just to run it out. Take that 7-0 lead to the dressing room at the half. Dominated by defense, and that's what everyone thought. Bears 7, and the Giants nothing at the end of 1 at Soldier Field in Chicago. We're at the half.
With me, of course, Irv and Dan Deerdorf and Jack Faulkner of the Los Angeles Rams, who is here scouting because the Rams, of course, will play the winner next week for the NFC Championship. Dan, we just watched that series of plays by the Giants. I couldn't believe they didn't try it on the ground once or twice against the Bears.
No, I'm hard-pressed to imagine, Brent, why they threw 3 consecutive passes, especially on 2nd down. Jack and I were talking the perfect time, maybe like a quick draw trap. They still had plenty of time then to run a 3rd down play.
Sean Landetta, Irv, you were over and talked to him on the bench. What happened on that misfire on the punt?
Darndest thing, Brent. He went into his delivery to kick the ball, dropped the ball, and a gust of wind came up and blew it away. I've never seen it happen before.
All right, now, Jack, let's turn our attention to the Los Angeles Rams. You told me before the game that John Robinson was going to change up his offense. It really worked, the new wrinkles today.
Well, I think John Robinson and his coaching staff did a great job of the game plan for the Dallas Cowboys, and I think during the football game, too, they did a great job of calling the selection of plays.
Well, Jack, let's take a look at some of that action from yesterday out in Anaheim. What was so surprising was that Tom Landry was shut out by a score of 20-0. The Cowboys turned the ball over a total of 6 times in the game. And, of course, the big horse for the Rams yesterday was Eric Dickerson. He set an NFL playoff record, rushing for 248 yards. There he is, busting one of his 2 touchdowns that he scored against the Cowboys. And John Robinson, whom we'll hear from in the postgame, certainly had reason to be beaming. Now, I know you want the Giants to win because you get a home game next week.
Well, it would be nice, but I think the weather is beautiful here. I don't care where we play, just so we're in the game.
Jack, isn't it going to be awfully tough for you to come here with the Rams from Southern California?
Not really. I really do. I think the weather is fine here, and I think we'll very well. I think that Coach Robinson will have our team ready to play. I don't care what kind of weather it is.
Norman Vincent Peale would be very proud of you, Jack. The power of positive thinking. We're not buying it.
I remember playing on a Ram team that went into Green Bay to play in a playoff game there. It was 70 degrees in L.A. when it worked out. We came into Milwaukee, 15 below 0. It was a factor.
I told one of the Chicago men that Pete Rozelle has made it a fact that they had to practice in Chicago. We'll go ahead and practice in Los Angeles, too.
Well, you know, we've got a sellout crowd on hand here in Soldier Field, and I have to tell you that no one would have appreciated this sellout crowd any more than the late Bill Veeck. It is somewhat ironic that this is such a big sports weekend here in Chicago, and yet one of the city's favored all-time sports personalities, was laid to rest yesterday. There are so many things that we remember Beck for. For example, of course, he was the consummate fan. Loved nothing better than to be out in the bleachers. And of course, how about the midget he sent up to the plate? The exploding scoreboard down at Comiskey Park. The time that they tried Bermuda shorts, it was one promotion after another. But he found his greatest joy at the ballpark. Now, Bill was buried yesterday here in Chicago, but he leaves behind a philosophy for all of us who love sports the way he did.
Thing is a ballpark filled with people.
The late Bill Beck, and his legacy will certainly continue here in the city of Chicago and throughout the country. And we will continue live from Soldier Field after these messages from your local paper. Well, at the half, the Bears lead the Giants, but Dan Deerdorf, the Giants were moving the first time they touched the ball. Big turnover.
Yeah, you could say that Rob Carpenter, taking the pass from Phil Simms, turns it over, and it really looked like the still good start, moving it better than I thought early.
Wilbur Marshall coming from behind, and he was able to whack the ball free, and Mike Singletary dove in there and got the job done for him, and that was a big turnover for Chicago. Now, Irv, let's go back to a play that I've never seen, and that was Landeta misfiring on the punt.
It's really one of the strangest things I've ever seen in professional football. Landeta, who's an experienced kicker. Now watch this. He told me when he dropped the ball, a gust of wind came up and blew the ball away. So he just barely ticked it. Of course, the Bears wound up recovering this ball, and Sean Gale goes in for the touchdown, and it's only scores in the first half.
Dan Deerdorf, you've been around football a lot. You ever seen anything like that?
No, the last time I saw a play like that, Brent, was on Peanuts one time when Lucy moved the ball and Charlie Brown whipped on it. I can't remember ever seeing anything.
All right, now we come down inside the 5-yard line with time running out, and the Giants put the ball up in the air. Here was the third down pass play. Simms under, he threw it, and he overthrew the wide receiver, and so the Bears got a big emotional lift, I thought, on the part of the defense. Jack, when you're here, John Robinson and the staff, they'll see the films. They're watching the game on TV. What can you pick up for them at a game like this that they can't see on film?
Well, we like to get all the substitutions coming in and out of the game. We like to know what type of injuries that I'll bring back for them, and also conduct on the sideline, what's happening on their bench.
All right, well, let's go upstairs now to Pat Summerall. Pat?
Well, we watched the first half and watched the Bears defense dominate. John Madden and I were just talking and figuring that if the Giants are going to do anything, they've got to figure out a way to block that Bear blitz. John's moved over to the chalkboard. How about explaining what's happened, John?
Well, that's what I think. You know, obviously they aren't going to get a lot of running from Joe Morris today. And I think what they have to do is get Richard Dent blocked. Now here they run a stunt with Hampton, and here comes Dent around like this. Now that was ways that they got pressure. See, Dent starts there, Hampton goes right, McMichael goes right, Dent comes around, straight up the middle, Phil Simms doesn't have a chance. That's one of the things that they have to do. Now, the other place that Dent lines up is on the outside. And just coming from the outside on the right side or Simms's backside. You see him, he lines up wide there, starts out on Benson, just runs and sprints right around him. They force Simms into him, and he strips the ball. So that's the second time. The other guy that has been raising havoc, in fact he did on that play too, is linebacker Otis Wilson. Now, here, he's coming from this side. We've seen Dent coming from the other side and stunning. Now Wilson coming from this side. And I think that the problem, until that last drive, the Giants didn't have any yards passing until the end, and these are the reasons. Otis Wilson coming from the left, Dent coming from the right. I think they have to get those two guys blocked.
And we'll see if they can accomplish it as we have one more half coming up from Soldier Field in Chicago. The Bears lead it 7-0. Ready to go with the second half just about, with the Bears leading it 7-0. Statistically, it's been dominated by the Bears. The Giants with only 3 first downs. Chicago with 7. Total yards 145 to 78. 1 turnover, the fumble by Carpenter. And the time of possession, 19:35 to 10:25. But the key touchdown, was most unusual.
Well, and that's one thing that doesn't show up in the statistics is that when the Giant punter, Sean Landeta, went back to punt the ball. And, of course, the Bears, that's how they got their 1 touchdown.
The word on Jim Burt is that he suffered a concussion when they took him out in the first half, when he got sandwiched on that play, and we'll just have to wait and see as to whether he'll come back or not. It's like they're still talking to him. He is questionable at best.
I'm sure the Giants, as we see Phil Simms there getting ready to go out there this next time, I'm sure that they've talked about that pass protection, things that we just talked about, Otis Wilson and Dent and the stunts and so on, because I think if he has time, he can get guys open, and guys can get open. But in the first half, until just before half, he really didn't have any time to do it.
Well, they had no yards passing, as you pointed out. Joe Morris, by the way, suffered a bruised shoulder, but he is ready to play. Schubert has the ball blow off the tee. The Giants will have the wind at their back in the 3rd quarter.
Well, you know, the other thing that doesn't show in those halftime statistics is that Eric Schubert missed a field goal just before half.
Right.
I think that fired the Bears up, and I think that could have demoralized the Giants a little.
Willie Gault and Dennis Gentry back deep for the Bears. This will be Gault at the 1-yard line. Gault gets out to about the 23 before he's cut down by Robbie Jones. A return of 21 yards. 7-0 the Bears. Temperature at the game's beginning was 12 degrees. The wind chill factor was 13 below. McMahon, 7 out of 10 for 86 yards. Bears kept saying yesterday up at their training camp, they didn't practice yesterday. They kept saying what a great week of practice they had in Atlanta. Burt is not in. Jerome Sally. This is Payton. And Payton rumbles for a first down. Sally made the stop. Payton got 12.
There's one thing, Jim Burt, you know, when they do play Jerome Sally, he's more of the pass nose tackle anyway, and Burt is the run nose tackle. Here they get good movement on Sally. They start with a double team, end up on a single, get a good push on him. And again, to run against a 3-man line, you have to get backward movement on that nose tackle. Then you can find a soft spot in the defense.
Payton got the first down. To work again as Wilbur. This time got a couple. Kenny Hill came up to fill the hole.
You know, talking about backward movement on the nose tackle and seeing the nose tackle there, Jim Burt. This Jay Hilgenberg, the center of the Bears, is one of the best blocking centers that I've seen in a long time. We watched him in some film. We've done some games of theirs, and I haven't yet seen the guy miss a block yet.
I don't think I have either. He's one of those guys, free agent, sort of a self-made guy.
Well, he was. He lifted the weights. He made himself big, made himself strong.
They give again to Payton, and there's nothing there. Jerome Sally this time. That'll make it 3rd and long.
And the fans are getting restless here. They say, I like this center play. I like this nose tackle play. I like those guys in the pits. They're doing that stuff and grunting and groaning and running, but we want to see some passing. Let's throw the ball, McMahon. Or Ditka, let's call a pass.
3rd and 6. The Bears at their own 39, and they will put it up. Assuming they have time, of course. Boy's got Gentry wide open. Nobody within 30 yards of Gentry, and he's out of bounds. At the Giant 21, Herb Welch knocked him out of bounds, but nobody was close to it, not even in the picture.
And that's the guy that Jim McMahon said on those passing downs that he's going to look for. He said, I have to get the ball to Dennis Gentry. He comes in. We'll see him. He started here, came in motion. Here he is here. See, now they have the coverage, but no one is coming with Gentry. He comes out here, catches a ball out here all alone. See, they lose him. See, he's coming in motion. Then he stops. Now watch him. They have man-to-man, man-to-man. No one covers Gentry. Wide open out here. They had him covered on the other side, and when he came in motion, no one came with him, nor did anyone pick him up on this side.
1st and 10 for the Bears. They struck quickly. McMahon going to work again to McKenna. Incomplete. Terry Kennard was coming in the direction of the intended receiver. The ball was there.
McMahon said the only thing he's worried about with those gloves that he throws more spirals and he throws better passes now with them than he does without them. He says his guys may not be able to adjust to spiral.
Not used to it.
But he throws floaters, end-over-enders, you know, flopping ducks. And here you throw a spiral. They don't know what to do with it.
2nd and 10. Some room, and he's got a man in the end zone. It was Marjoram, and he had a step or two. That's a tough pass to throw running like that.
Well, it's a play that Jim McMahon had on his mind because he was telling us about Marjoram. He said down inside the 20, he said Ken Marjoram is the best receiver we have. So because no matter what the defense is doing, he'll find an area, he'll get an opening. And then, of course, he always said that they're on the same wavelength. I like that. You know, if something goes wrong, whack yourself in the head.
Right.
Then you know, I like, you know, some guys go, oh, heck, or shoot or something. But boom, you go whack, whack, hit yourself in the head, and that shakes the cobwebs and stuff out.
Some guys point fingers at the other guy. Here comes Gentry in motion again. McMahon. Incomplete, out of bounds. McKinnon, I believe, was the intended receiver. And Kevin Butler will come on again.
Well, McMahon has his passing back now. He threw an end-over-ender duck out there. That thing had no spiral on it whatsoever. I think he was looking again for Gentry, couldn't find anything, and I think he just threw it away.
Butler will be 38 yards away this time. Fuller holding. He missed twice already. For 3. He missed it to the left. Then the Giants take over with 12-11 left to play in the 3rd quarter. When you're looking away from Soldier Field, cold and clear, and 7-0. Start from their own 21, 1st and 10. 3rd quarter. And let's see if they have indeed figured out a way to block this Bear defense.
Well, one of the things they do, that they've inserted Maurice Carthon at the fullback position.
He, of course, is an excellent blocker. They give to Morris. Morris is hit in the backfield by Richard Dent.
Well, they were trying to put Joe Morris over on the strong side, run back to the weak side, but again, see, here's Dent lined up wide here. He just starts his charge. He just beats the block and gets Joe Morris. But again, they aren't going to run or pass until they get this guy blocked. This guy's he's already all pro. You don't have to help him anymore. He got to get
led the league in sacks during the year. Sims back to throw. He did have a little bit of time. Lionel Manuel, the intended receiver. Mike Richardson was with him step for step.
You know, I think that key word you said is a little bit of time. You know, sometimes the guys get there, sometimes they hit you, sometimes they're hanging on you, and sometimes they're breathing on you. Now that one was just a breath deal. They were just breathing on him, but they were getting there.
That would probably be classified as a hurry. Sims 4 out of 14. 3rd down and 11. Blitz again. Singletary and Otis Wilson. And over Phil Sim.
Now that time they brought them all. Again, they're in that fake diamond. The guy that gets here is Singletary, but they have the 3 linemen. They usually play 4 linemen in that situation, but Singletary comes straight up the middle. No one picks him up. Otis Wilson comes from the outside, and there's Hampton on top.
Landeta back in his own end zone. End-over-end kick. Ortega fields it at midfield. Gets to the Giant 41. The Bears will have it in good shape. 41-yard punt by Landeta. Ortega brought it back 9 yards. The Bears will take over. They love that defense.
Yeah, they should, and the Giants sideline is still trying to figure it out. And it's that fake diamond, the 3 defensive linemen where they usually use 4. Linebackers on either side, Singletary in the middle with the linebacker blitzing.
Jim Burt is back. Suhey and Payton operate behind McMahon. To Suhey. Suhey will get about 7 yards. Harry Carson tripped him up.
Tell you one thing, I think one thing about this Bear offensive team is when you get in a game where you have to run or you're going to run, they have the 2 perfect backs. They have Walter Payton, the best in the game, and then they have a Matt Suhey, who 1 will block for him, and 2, if you start keying Payton too strongly, he can hit those plays straight ahead and pick a hole.
And of course, Payton is an excellent blocker himself. It's Suhey again. To the 25. First down Bears. Carson and Hill on the stop. But Suhey got 9.
Well, that's the type of stuff they start doing to you. If Suhey carries the ball, it's going to be this type of stuff. Just straight ahead. Guards fire out. Center fire out. Hat on hat, they call it. And then Suhey just find a soft spot, take that ball straight up and get the first down. He reminds me a lot of a guy that I used to have, Pete Banaszak, the guy that you look at him and you think he can't do anything, but you add it up and he can do just about everything.
From the 25, they again give to Suhey. And from the outside comes Kenny Hill to take him down after he got a couple.
Well, that's the first thing you do when teams start running on you and you're playing 7 men, 3 linebackers. To get that 8th guy, you add the strong safety, and you get him up tighter and tighter and tighter. That time, Kenny Hill was on the line of scrimmage.
Giants have only managed 29 yards running. The Bears 92. And they're rolling with it right now. Incomplete. Harry Williams. Right there.
That had to be an audible. McMahon saw something. I think it was the Giant corners up tight, and he called an audible 767. And that's when he saw tight coverage. He wanted to go to work to Willie Gault and get the big one.
That brings up a 3rd and 8 situation.
That was good defense there by Perry Williams. He had position on him. Gault got inside him, then tried to go back to the corner, and Perry Williams didn't let him.
3rd down. Gentry in motion. Flag is down. In the end zone, touchdown. Dennis McKinnon came up with the ball in the end zone. However, there was a flag on the play.
I'm sure the flag is against the Giants, Pat. Byron Hunt jumped off sides, so that touchdown will stay, I'm sure.
Defense offside, 57, touchdown.
McKinnon. And the Bears try to make it 14-0. Butler's extra point is good. 8:48 left to play in the third quarter. Chicago 14, the Giants nothing. Plays 41 yards.
When McMahon saw Byron Hunt jump off sides, he knew he had a free shot. Just throw it up. If you get it, you got a touchdown. He did get it to McKinnon. If you don't, then you get to play over again. Watch McKinnon here. You know, the Bears, little success in their passing game, going and then slowing up and then coming back as McKinnon does there. That has to be planned. They've been doing that too many times today, where they start up the field, get the defensive guy running, and then McMahon throws it short.
Actually, it wasn't bad coverage by Patterson. McMahon will do a little celebrating for you.
Well, you know, he celebrates with his head, too. He'll go paint to paint with a helmet.
They do a little headbutting. That's part of the celebration.
I think McMahon's fantasy is to be like an offensive lineman, a guard, or one of those guys, and a wrestler.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's not the case.
He said he wasn't supposed to wear that headband. He said the commissioner didn't want him to.
Hasselbeck on the return, side the 40. Return of 19 before Gentry makes the stop. There's McMahon.
Yeah, he said he couldn't wear that headband. He said they got word from the league office not to do that. I think all that means is for him to do it.
Oh, yeah.
I think if no one says anything, he probably wouldn't wear it. He'd probably cut his hair again or something.
Well, Ditka says a lot of the things he does, he's convinced he just does them to irritate him.
I think he just does it because he's a very bright guy, and football practice and meetings and everything is boring.
Here's Sims back to throw. Has some time. Gets it out to Carpenter. Otis Wilson with him. One of the things that Fencik was saying, Gary Fencik was saying yesterday about what's great about playing defense for Buddy Ryan is that he's not married to his game plan. He's willing to change during the course of a game.
Well, what he does, he comes in and he has a lot of things they do. They work and they see what's going, and then they just keep doing it. And that's what they've been doing today.
Second down for the Giants. Sims back to throw again. Down the middle. Intended for Bavaro. Incomplete. Wilbur Marshall.
It is kind of funny, though, here in this series, when the Bears took the 14-point lead now, they're not blitzing as much. It's only been a couple of plays, but they're kind of, dropping off. There goes the fridge. Done a little work today.
Third down. They're showing blitz this time. Sims for McConkey. Incomplete. Frazier, the defender. I don't know if those gloves are bothering Sims or not. Steve McMichael, who had a knee problem, might have aggravated it.
I think the thing that's bothering Sims more in the gloves is that rush. I really do. They haven't figured it out. They haven't been able to block it solidly. He's had to throw before he's ready to, and I think that's bothering him more in the gloves. Or the flu that he had last night.
That could be. Della has time and gets off a good punt. Or to go. Fields it at his own 6-yard line. Terry Kennard was the first man down. They mark it at the 7. 47-yard punt, no return. And the Bears will have it back at their own 7-yard line. 7:43 left, third quarter. Payton hit hard this time. Harry Carson and Carl Banks.
I think they started saying, well, they've shown what they're going to do. They're just going to run the ball out of here. I think the Bears, obviously, with a 14-point lead, would like to run the rest of the game, if not just this quarter, while they're going into the wind.
Right. 2nd down and 10. No gain. Gault and McKinnon both are wide left. They give again to Payton. He's hit behind the line by George Martin. Lawrence Taylor also involved, as was Carl Banks again.
Hey, the Giant defense is a very strong defense against the run when they know you're going to run. I think they were playing both, and then they just started tightening it up, tightening it up, tightening it up. And now 2 runs didn't gain anything, and they have 3rd and a holder.
Only one back, in fact, ran for 100 yards against the Giants, and that was Eric Dickerson, who did it yesterday to the Cowboys.
He got about 2 or 3 games worth yesterday.
He did. McMahon throws outside. Incomplete. Intended this time for Payton, covered by Taylor. So they got the matchup they wanted.
That's not a bad matchup. You know, if you had to start a team, those wouldn't be 2 bad guys to do it with. You take Walter Payton for the offense and Lawrence Taylor for the defense. Wouldn't be a bad deal.
Surely wouldn't. Buford will punt from about his own 20-yard line. McConkey standing back at the Giant in the neighborhood of the 30.
The Bears really are working this clock,
aren't they? Except it's not running.
Kick it.
Low kick. McConkey lets it bounce wisely, and it takes a Bear bounce. They'll down it at the Giant 32. Cliff Thrift down to do the job. Punt of 35 yards. So the Giants take over with 3:21 remaining in the 3rd quarter, trailing by 14. Here on CBS, the AT&T Tennis Challenge, the men's singles final. 7 of the top players in the world are scheduled to appear. That'll be followed by basketball, the doubleheader. Georgetown, St. John's, Notre Dame, DePaul, or USC against Washington. 3:21 left. 1st down, Giants, their own 32. Sims back to pass. Gets it out to Carpenter. Carpenter out of bounds after a gain of 5. This could be the Giants' last shot at the end zone with the wind at their back. And it's still blowing.
I think so, and I think down 14-0, they have to think that way, that they really have 3 minutes and 15 seconds to get 1 score, and that's with the wind and passing, and then hope they can do that and then get another against the wind, maybe going back to some more running.
Adams in the backfield now with Morris. With Carpenter, sorry. And down goes Sims again. Richard Dent. 4 times. 4 times. Sims has been sacked.
Yeah, that was the thing that they have to be able to handle. Here's Dent. Refrigerator starts this way. Dent loops and comes right up the middle and gets Sims there. What you see, start 95. Fridge starts to the outside. Dent starts to the inside. No one picks him up right there into Sim. I tell you, that has been the headache and the nightmare for the Giants all day today.
No sacks by the Giants. 4 by the Bears. Here comes a blitz against Sims and Duerson. It's intended for McConkey, and it's incomplete. And they just can't move it. Back to punt. Ortego will field it at the 30. We're down at the 35. Hill down quickly. 43-yard punt, 5-yard return. The Bears take over. Left to play in the 3rd quarter. The winner of this game to play the Rams.
There are no swimmers out there today, huh?
No. A lot of ice out in Lake Michigan. See if the Bears continue with that same philosophy.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they'll run to get into the fourth quarter.
McKinnon comes in motion. And it's Payton to the left. Hit by Marshall in the backfield. Chased out of bounds by Banks. Or a loss of a couple.
Lawrence Taylor hit Banks after that, telling him good play and bunt around like he thought it was one of the Bears. Lawrence Taylor's the policeman out there taking care of the deal. One thing Bill Parcells said that he instructed his team, when Walter Payton runs on the sideline, hit him. He said, you see him so many times, he runs in that sideline, and guys let up, and then Payton just dips his shoulder and runs right by him. That's what Carl Banks was doing there. He said, my coach told me, hit him. And then Taylor hits Banks, and Banks goes, who hit me? You don't got it.
See if he hits back. McMahon has a man wide open. It's Tim Reitman. The tight end, Reitman to the 20. Caught by Kenny Hill. That's the second time McMahon has had a receiver with no defender within 15 or 20 yards.
Yeah, Tim Reitman, of course they got him from the USFL this year as the end guy right here. Comes off, no one covers him right in here. He's all alone, and McMahon pops him. Watch him come off the line. The safety works out. The other safety works to the other side. And there's Reitman right in the middle, all by himself.
That's two times that there had to be some kind of mistake in coverage, don't you think?
Well, Kenny Hill, you would think the strong safety would be there, but he worked out to the flanker, probably trying to help on Gault.
McKinnon, touchdown. His second of the day. For the extra point.
He doesn't get the blitz. He's watching McKinnon all the way. McKinnon runs a quick post on Elvis Patterson, and he gets him beat down there. Patterson was up tight in a jam. See how close he is. He gives him a little move to the outside, then puts his left hand, pushes him to the outside, comes back underneath, and McMahon hits him right there. Watch McMahon now, his celebration. Like I said, he always celebrates with his head. I mean, you get your hands up first, then you see if you can go find a guy to bump heads with. Where's the guy? 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 There's the guy. Now get a butt. Yeah, there you go.
With Van Horn.
You got to go look a long time to get a guy, and then you find a whole bunch of guys, and then you end up boink. But I knew he would like to have been an offensive lineman.
Butler's kickoff is fielded by Tony Galbraith. A return of 18 by Galbraith. Patterson, you're right, was up crowding McKinnon, and once he got past him, McMahon had the ball in there.
Did you see the move that McKinnon made? It was one of those defensive moves. They call it a swim, where he hit him with his left hand, pushed him with his left hand, then brought his right hand over like this. And then he was beyond him.
take over at their own 39. 1st and 10. Adams and Carpenter in the backfield. Sims has got to throw it in a hurry and does. Mark Bavaro, pickup of about 8. It's incomplete. Singletary was with Bavaro. You don't score too many points when you're minus 14 in total yards, do you?
Well, you know, you can look at that either way. The Giant offense is minus 14, but the way that this Bear defense is playing, they've cost 14.
2nd and 10. Carpenter. Handoff is to Morris, and he only gets a couple. William Perry.
Well, you know, that's a good thing with Perry playing next to Dent. Dent on that play, Dent can get up the field a little more. Dent can go more for the quarterback, and Perry, the big guy, he just kind of hangs around that line of scrimmage, and he picks up what's flopping around there.
That's the end of the 3rd quarter with the score, the Bears 21, the Giants nothing. We now pause for a word from your local station. 1 more quarter left. 3rd and 7. Now the Giants go against the wind. Adams had it and lost it. And now the Bears surround it. Incomplete. 3 first downs for the Giants. 15 for the Bears.